All right. Hello, kiddos. So, this is the way that we are going to be doing lessons in class for this semester. As you guys need the notes, you guys can come to here at any time. You'll review the lesson on here that I've recorded. You can stop it, you can play it, you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. And then if you have questions about anything, you can come into class and you can ask me about that, and we'll review and we'll do things that way. So that is really how class is going to go. So each week I'll have this posted for you, and we'll go into more detail about this during class as well, so you guys kind of understand how this is going. So this is chapter 1, talking about soil. We're going to go into a lot more depth about this lesson in general. This is just going to be a really quick overview of kind of how the rest of the book and the chapters are going to go. And everything we talk about today is going to be more in detail, chunked out into the different chapters throughout the semester. You'll notice that I posted skeleton notes for you guys. You're going to use those to help create your sketch notes in your notebook. That is just a guide for you to help kind of navigate through the chapter. And so you have that for when you take your quizzes also. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So the first thing we need to know is that soil is crucial to life. If we didn't have soil, we're not going to have life. We have animals. Animals eat the plants. We eat the animals and the plants. None of that would be possible if we didn't have soil. We need that soil in order to survive. All things that are grown in soil are going to be considered a fuel source, and that's going to take a really huge role into all species survival. So in this picture right here, you're going to see we're going to start off, we're going to look at medium for plant growth. But what these 6 things are is these are the 6 main functions of soil is what this is. So we have medium for plant growth. This is just, what we grow plants in. Recycling system for nutrient and organic waste. This is what breaks down waste that's in the soil. Soil is a modifier of our atmosphere. We'll go into more detail about that in a little bit. It's a habitat for our soil organisms, things that live in that soil. An engineering medium. We build buildings on our soil. And then a water purification system. We'll go in, we'll discuss that a little bit more as well. So soil media for plant growth. This is what we grow things in. So we need to know that there's 6 functions of soil as a media for plant growth. Okay. And they're different than the other 6 functions that we just spoke about. So the first one is going to be our physical support, our air, water, temperature moderation, that protection from toxin, and the nutrient elements. So plants breathe like humans, and I think we all realize this at this point in our lives, is that plants put out oxygen, we use that oxygen, but what a lot of us don't understand is what goes on underneath the soil. So underneath the soil, our roots, they are producing CO2, or they are taking CO2 and they are producing oxygen like what we need. And so our root respiration is going to be really important. And so that's the first thing that's going on, is the physicality of that. Phytotoxic is a couple different things. We have those phytotoxic substances, maybe because of humans, because of things that we have put in the soil, and they've created that reaction. It could also be because other plants have created that reaction. They've created those toxins within the soil. And that soil protects plants from those toxins. The soil kind of absorbs that and protects them for those sorts of things. The soil is going to provide minerals and nutrients. I'm not going to go over all of them right there, but we do need to know that soil is going to supply those plants with all the minerals and nutrients that it needs. In fact, there are 17 essential elements that plants need. All of those things, all of those elements are in the soil. You're going to need to know that there's 17. That's a really important number. We're going to talk about those 17 in more detail later. But right now, I need you to know that there are 17 of those essential nutrients. This picture right here, this table, is essentially just saying it's going over what those 17 essential nutrients are. A lot of cations, anions, as you can see, that are on there, and how they macro and micronutrients of what those plants will use. Plants can be grown in places that are not soil. You guys may know that. Maybe you don't. But the term hydroponics, that's talking about plants that are not grown within soil. The only problem is with that is that soil is what carries all the nutrients that a plant will need. If you hydroponically grow plants, water does not. So what that means is that you are going to have to pump those super expensive nutrients into the water so that plant can survive. Because if it's not growing in soil, it's not getting those nutrients that the soil provides. We're going to have to provide those nutrients some other way. The second function that water really does with our soil is that, or what soil does, I apologize, is that our soil is going to allow our water to soak in the ground. If we didn't have soil, and you can see this in unhealthy soil that's really compact or has had a lot of traffic on it, water does not soak into the soil. It just sits on top of it, and it basically floods. And so our soil is going to do a couple things. Number one, it's going to filter out those toxins. So as water comes down, we have rain. It comes down, it hits the soil. The soil is going to absorb that water. As it absorbs it, it's going to filter out those toxins. The water is going to continue on down into our groundwater supply, and it's going to keep our soil, our plants, all those things healthy. So, if our soil is contaminated, like I said, it's going to soak up those toxins. Or the water is contaminated, the soil is going to help separate those toxins, and so that way we get a clean water supply later on. Our third function of our soil recycling is that you should have learned about this in biology, hopefully, and that is the nitrogen cycle. Okay, the nitrogen cycle is going to break down our organic matters into humus or compost, and it's going to allow those nutrients, those 17 essential nutrients that plants need, it's going to allow those nutrients to stay in the soil or replace themselves in the soil so the plants can take those things up. So I've used this term a couple times already, and this is humus. This is not the stuff that you eat. But humus is, all it is just the top layer or the organic waste on top of the soil. That's all it is. It's just that really rich organic matter that lives on top of the soil. Our fourth function of our soil is going to be that atmosphere. So a lot of you guys I know talk about going to the desert and riding quads and things like that. And if you don't, think about if you go to the beach, that would be another option of what I'm going to kind of talk about. But in the desert, it's really dry. There's not a whole lot of water that is in the desert. And so if there's not a lot of water, that means our soil particles are going to dry out. We get a lot of wind that goes through there, dust storms, and it changes the atmosphere. So it actually can make our atmosphere in that area, it can make it warmer or it can make it cooler depending on the soil that we have. So Our fifth function is going to be that we need to know that soil is alive at all times. Every time we pick up a handful of soil, we are picking up a billion microorganisms within that soil. Just because we can't see them doesn't mean that it's not alive, but soil is alive at all times. And then our sixth function is that engineering medium. And that engineering medium, we are going to hear the word terra firma. All that means is just firm or solid ground is all that means. And we're talking about when we build on top of it. So we'll wipe away a couple of those top layers of the soil and get to the soil that is harder, firmer, and that's what we're going to build our buildings on, is what we're going to do. All right, so we need to have an understanding that soil is going to have a relationship with all the different spheres, okay? The lithosphere just basically is talking about rock, okay, the rock world. As rocks break down, that is what is going to create your soil. Okay, our atmosphere, air, hydrosphere, water, and biosphere living, all those things affect our soil. And so our pedosphere, which is soil, okay, it has a major role within that litho, atmosphere, hydro, and biosphere, okay? If you didn't have one of them, we wouldn't have Earth the way we know it now. We can't have one without the other. That's really important to know and understand. So there are 4 components of our soil. Okay, our 4 components are going to be our mineral component, which is going to be sand, silt, and clay, which I'll talk about a little more in a bit. The organic component, which is all the living items in our soil. And then air and water. Now you'll see on our chart right here, there's this little dotted line and it says 20 to 30 and 20 to 30. What that means is that this is interchanging. Okay, this doesn't always stay the same. Okay, so if we have more air, that means we have less water. And if we have more water, we have less air. Okay. If we were to look at soil on a microscopic level, you would see that soil has pockets. And those pockets, little open areas, are either going to be filled with air or water. Okay. And if it's filled with water, it can't be filled with air. And if it's filled with air, it can't be filled with water. Okay. So that's an interchanging percentage right there. But know that there's mineral, organic, water, and air that makes up our soil. So soil is going to be 3-dimensional. You understand it's not just dirt. We have to get that out of our mind. Okay. It's going to have roots, animals, rocks, artifacts, a whole bunch of things that makes up our soil. It's going to be alive. It's going to have things inside of it. This right here, these pictures, and I hate the fact that the book and the PowerPoints, they're all black and white, but we're going to do some of this in person to make this make a little bit more sense to you guys, I guess. But the drawing portion is, all that is this is what you would call a soil profile. And a soil profile is how a soil scientist looks at it and determines what the percentage of how much is made up of certain things. Okay, that was a lot of goop right there. But you need to know that a soil profile is made up of a couple different parts. Okay, you have the O horizon, the A horizon, the B horizon, C horizon, and then the R horizon, which is also known as bedrock. Okay, you'll also see this term right here, regolith. All regolith means is just broken down or weathered rock. I think that's one of the questions, or not questions, but one of the parts of your notes. But that's all regolith is, just broken down or weathered rock. Okay. A pedologist, This is somebody who studies the soil, studies those soil profiles and soil horizons that we just saw. That's what that is. So we're going to talk a little bit more about soil profiles later. I'm going to talk a little bit about it now, but we need to know that within a profile, there's all different parts of the profile, okay? Each profile, wherever you sample it, is going to be different on the percentage of how much it makes up, but they should all have each of these parts. So the first one we're going to talk about, and we'll go into a whole lot more detail about this later in the semester, is the O horizon. Okay, an O horizon is going to be your humus and your dead organic material. Could have some live organic material also, but that's what really your O horizon is at the very top, and it's going to be that organic material. The A horizon, which we didn't see, we did see the A horizon, that's going to be known as your topsoil. And your A horizon is just that organic matter, that O horizon that's been broken down so much. And that's going to be that rich, like when you go out and you like get a handful of soil, if you ever done this and you ever smell it and it smells like soil, like dirt, that's what you're looking at, is that A layer. Okay, that's right below the O, right below those grass clippings and dead leaves and things like that. Then you have the E layer. Okay, an E layer is going to have some organic matter, but not a whole bunch. Okay, it's going to have a little bit just because it's filtered down, but there's not going to be a ton there. The B horizon is going to be your subsoil and your clays. We'll talk about this more later. Your C horizon is going to be your regolith, the rocks, those big pieces, those large pieces. And then your bedrock is going to be, which we don't really show you on any of them, but your bedrock is going to be the very bottom portion of it. All right, so there are 3 mineral particles that make up soil. Okay, your first one is going to be sand, and it's going to be the largest particle. Okay, that's the first one. Then you're going to have silt, which is going to be the middle one, and then you're going to have clay, which is going to be the smallest. Your sand, silt, and clay are going to have something known as colloidal properties. Okay, we'll talk about that more later, but your sand, silt, and clay are going to be what gives your soil all the texture and all the properties to be able to drain or retain, keep water. Okay, that's going to be important because we need to be able to know what our sand, silt, and clay is. Okay, so our organic material is just living or non-living biomass. Okay, it's just the nutrients within the soil is all organic material is. Okay. Humus, I've used this word a bit. We'll talk about it. Okay. But here's the definition on this slide of just what humus is. Okay. Soil solutions. All right. So we need to know that when we water plants, okay, a lot of people think that when we water plants, the water is just absorbed by the roots and that's how the plant lives. Well, in reality, that's only partially true. Okay, so when you water the plants, the little water particles go through the soil, and as those water particles go through the soil, they're going to grab nutrients and minerals, those 17 nutrients, minerals that are in the soil. They're going to start grabbing them, and when they grab them, they soak it up in a little water particle, and it makes it soluble. Okay, and what that means is now that it's soluble, the plant can now absorb the nutrients and minerals. So why water is important is because not only does it, it gives the plant something to drink, but it takes those nutrients that are in the soil and it allows the roots to actually take them up. And that's what feeds the plant, is those nutrients. So it's in there. And so your water is going to be a mixture of your nutrients and minerals And that is what's going to make the solution. Okay. I know that's a question on your thing, is what's the solution? That's what a solution is. It's water and then minerals and the nutrients. Okay. So I talked a little bit about this a few minutes ago about the air pockets. Okay. We need to know that if we have a pocket of air, that means there's not water in it. If we have water, that means there's not air in there. Okay. Can't have two things in the same place. Doesn't work like that. All right. So there are 4 components that are going to work together so plant roots can take up those nutrients. And you can kind of see that happening in this picture right here. We're not going to go into crazy detail on that. But our quality of our soil, or our measurability of our soil, is we need to ask ourselves, what can we do? Okay, so when we look at the quality of our soil, we're looking at a couple things. What can we do with it? Can we grow things on it? Can we build on it? Or should we just leave our soil alone? Okay, so that's when we're looking at the quality or the measurability of it. That's what we're measuring: growing, building, or leaving it alone. Okay, so conclusion: what do you need to know out of this whole thing? Okay, first, why is soil important? Okay, what did I talk about? Why is that soil important? What were the 6 functions of soil? Okay, the growing plants, regulating our water supply, moderating our atmosphere, recycling raw materials and waste, making habitats, and being able to build things on it. Okay. We need to know what our 6 functions of our growing media were. Okay, you know that part. We need to know what our components of our soil are. That's sand, silt, and clay. We need to know that. And then you also need to know what a soil solution is. Okay. So just as a recap, and I know we talk about this in class too, all your homework is going to be due on Mondays, but your quizzes are going to be on Fridays. Okay. And I'll make announcements in Canvas for you. Just remember, we're not using Classroom at all. Everything is going to be on Canvas from now on the rest of the semester. If you guys have questions, please email me or talk to me in class. That's going to be super important. If you're out because of COVID, or you're sick, or you're absent, or whatever, just know that you should be able to find everything on here as well. So, all right. Hopefully, if you guys have questions, you let me know, and have a great day.